The sky above Zorathis was a swirl of colors, deep purples mixing with the faint shimmer of green auroras. From a distance, the war machines of the invaders marched across the land, their polished surfaces glinting in the fading sunlight. The ground beneath the city trembled with each step they took, and the air was thick with tension. Among the alien crowds gathered near the city's central plaza, a figure stood out, not because of her appearance, but because of the calm that seemed to radiate from her. Zilar, the alien queen, observed her army from the highest balcony of the citadel. Her elongated form was draped in ceremonial armor, not for battle, but for leadership. Her eyes, sharp and golden, scanned the horizon with a mixture of determination and concern. She had ruled her people through countless wars, but this invasion was unlike any she had faced before. The enemy was relentless, calculated, and far larger than expected. The citizens below murmured among themselves. Many were frightened, clutching at one another as if sheer proximity could protect them. But some looked at the queen with unwavering faith. Her presence was a symbol of hope, a reminder that their survival was not left to chance. In the crowd, a human named Eli shifted nervously. He had come to Zorathis as an ambassador, sent by Earth to observe alien cultures. He had studied their languages, their history, and their technology, but nothing had prepared him for this. Standing among beings far taller and more complex than humans, he felt the weight of every eye on him. Humans were rare here, and most of the aliens considered them fragile. Yet Eli's heart raced not from fear, but from a strange sense of purpose. He wanted to help, but how could a single human make any difference in a war between alien species? The first blasts of the invaders' machines echoed across the plains. They were not meant to destroy buildings or people directly, but to test defenses, probing for weaknesses. Zilar's forces reacted instantly. Drones and defenders moved in precise formation, shielding civilians while countering the invaders' strategies. The coordination was remarkable, but even from a distance, Eli could see the strain on the queen's face. She gestured to her advisors, who quickly relayed commands through a series of hand signals and telepathic pulses. Every movement was calculated, every decision deliberate, yet the enemy adapted with equal skill. It was a battle of wits and strategy, and Zilar realized that victory was not guaranteed. Eli's gaze wandered across the battlefield. Among the alien soldiers, he noticed patterns the queen might not see. The invaders' machines moved in predictable arcs, relying on repetition to maintain efficiency. Eli's mind, trained in observation and improvisation, began to map these patterns. He did not have weapons, he did not have armor, but he had an understanding of cause and effect, of trial and error. The ground shook again, closer this time, and a small group of drones faltered as they tried to maintain formation. Zilar noticed it immediately and signaled for reinforcement. But Eli saw another possibility. He whispered to himself, almost reflexively, "If only they could block that path." The thought sparked an idea. Nearby, discarded tools and debris littered the plaza. Eli grabbed a long metallic rod and studied the mechanical devices around him. He wasn't sure if it would work, but he had to try. Carefully, he wedged a piece of debris into the path of one of the machines. It shifted just enough to cause the drone to stumble, sending a small ripple through the enemy formation. From her balcony, Zilar saw the effect immediately. One of the enemy's groups faltered, causing confusion that spread like wildfire. She narrowed her eyes, curious. Who was this human, and what had he done? She did not yet understand, but she sensed potential, a spark that could change the course of the battle. The queen descended from her balcony, moving closer to the crowd. Her presence was commanding, yet she did not move with aggression. Civilians instinctively stepped back, creating a clear path. Eli's heart pounded, but he held his ground, not out of bravery, but because he felt a strange alignment with her purpose. Human, Zeeler said, her voice resonant and clear, reaching his mind directly through a translator device. "Did you just intervene?" Eli swallowed. I noticed a weakness. I thought maybe—" His voice faltered. He was not a soldier, not a hero, but his mind worked in ways that no trained warrior could replicate under pressure. Zeeler studied him carefully. "Interesting. You are fragile, yet observant. Perhaps your mind is sharper than your body. This could be valuable." Before Eli could respond, the invaders adjusted. They were quick learners, altering their movements to counter the disruption. Zeeler raised her hand, signaling her commanders to adapt as well. Eli realized that one small act was not enough. He had sparked an idea, but it needed to grow. He looked around, observing the crowd. Some of the citizens were frozen with fear, while others watched intently, sensing that something extraordinary was happening. He called out, "Move the debris in the patterns I signal. Block their paths here, here, and here." His voice carried over the noise of the battle, surprisingly clear. At first, the aliens nearest him hesitated. They had never seen a human take initiative like this. Then, slowly, they began to respond, moving debris and activating emergency mechanisms exactly as Eli indicated. The effect was immediate. The invaders' formations became disorganized, their advance slowed, and the defenders had more time to adjust. Zeeler's eyes gleamed. She had not expected this. An unarmed human influencing the battlefield with nothing but observation and quick thinking. She allowed a small, private smile. Perhaps the legends of human unpredictability were true. The sky darkened as a storm rolled in, and lightning illuminated the machines and warriors alike. Eli continued to signal, moving with precision, though exhaustion began to creep into his limbs. Every action mattered. Every decision could tip the balance. Yet, despite the danger, he felt alive in a way he had never known. He was part of something larger than himself, and his contributions, however small, were making a difference. The invaders paused, regrouping. Their leaders scanned the battlefield, confused by the sudden disorder. Zeeler seized the opportunity. She directed her forces with renewed confidence, combining their skill with Eli's improvisation. Slowly, the tide began to shift, not because the Queen's army had grown stronger, but because of the ingenuity of a human in the crowd. For a moment, Eli allowed himself a breath of hope. He realized that courage was not about strength or size. It was about seeing what others could not, and acting despite fear. The Queen, watching him intently, seemed to understand this instinctively. She had led armies for centuries, yet here was a being who, without weapons or training, had already influenced the course of a battle. The citizens, inspired by both the Queen and the human, began to assist in small ways. They moved supplies, redirected defensive energy shields, and even guided groups of machines to safer paths. Zeeler noticed the shift in morale. What had begun as a desperate situation now carried a glimmer of hope. Eli's mind raced with ideas, each more daring than the last. He knew he could not directly confront the invaders, but he could think, observe, and guide. And in doing so, he might just give the Queen the edge she needed to save her people. As night fell over Zorathis, the battlefield transformed into a scene of quiet determination. The Queen and her army were not victorious yet, but they were no longer losing. One human, untrained and underestimated, had made the impossible feel achievable. And in the heart of the battle, Eli felt a connection to the Queen, to her people, and to the future they could shape together. The first part of the story closes with the Queen looking down at the crowd, her gaze resting on Eli. She did not yet know how far this human could go. But she understood one thing clearly. In this war, intelligence, courage, and creativity might matter more than power alone. And perhaps, In the unpredictability of humanity, she had found a force even her enemies could not anticipate. The dawn broke over Zorathis with a soft glow, casting long shadows across the battlefield. The storm had passed, leaving the air crisp and clean, and a sense of calm briefly settled over the city. Yet beneath that calm, tension still lingered. The enemy forces were regrouping, their machines moving slowly but steadily, preparing for the next phase of their assault. The Queen's army remained vigilant, but they were exhausted from the previous day's chaos. Eli stood near the edge of the plaza, still observing, still thinking. His body ached, but his mind raced with possibilities. The disruption he had caused yesterday was only the beginning. He realized that winning a war was not about overpowering the enemy, it was about understanding them, predicting their movements, and using clever solutions where brute strength could not. Humans had a unique ability to see connections others overlooked, and he intended to use that skill to help the Queen. Zilar emerged from the citadel, moving gracefully among her troops. Her presence commanded attention, yet there was no arrogance in her stride. She approached Eli, her golden eyes sharp but thoughtful. "Human," she said, her voice calm yet firm. "Yesterday you demonstrated insight. Today, I will trust you to guide us further. Are you ready?" Eli nodded, feeling both pride and pressure. "I will do my best," he said, his voice steady despite the fluttering of nerves in his chest. He had never faced anything like this before, yet he felt a strange clarity. In this moment, he understood that courage was not the absence of fear, it was acting despite it. Zilar led him to a vantage point overlooking the city's central streets. From here, the flow of the enemy's movements was clear. Their machines were strong, but predictable. Eli pointed to a narrow alley where the machines frequently passed. "If we guide them into this section," he said, "they will slow down. It's tighter there, so their numbers will be less effective." The Queen studied his suggestion carefully. "It is a risk. If they break through, our people could be trapped." Eli shook his head. "Not if we combine it with the energy shields and the moving barricades. They won't know what's coming until they are in the alley. Then, we can guide them safely into containment areas instead of letting them roam freely." Zilar's lips curved into a subtle smile. "You think in ways my army does not. Very well, human. We will follow your plan." Orders were relayed quickly, and the citizens, who had been watching and learning, began to assist. They moved barricades, adjusted shields, and signaled the troops according to Eli's instructions. The energy of collaboration was tangible. Fear was being replaced by determination. Even the Queen's elite warriors paused for a moment, astonished at how efficiently a human mind could coordinate efforts across species. The first group of enemy machines approached the alley. As predicted, they slowed to navigate the confined space, and the Queen's forces were ready. They guided the machines gently, not to harm, but to control, redirecting them into designated containment zones where they could no longer disrupt the city. Civilians cheered quietly from safe areas, feeling a sense of accomplishment. They had contributed, guided by a human who had never wielded a weapon in battle, yet whose understanding of strategy was unmatched. Zilar turned to Eli. "Your methods are unusual. Why do you not fear these machines?" Eli shrugged. "I don't know if I'm not afraid. I just know that fear doesn't solve problems. Thinking does. Acting does. We can't stop the war by hiding. We can only guide it, redirect it, and make sure everyone survives." The Queen considered his words. There was wisdom in them, simple yet profound. In her centuries of leading armies, she had relied on strength and precision. But humans had a way of seeing the world differently, flexible, adaptable, inventive. Perhaps this was the key to turning the tide. The day progressed, and the battle continued, though the focus had shifted. Instead of clashes of raw power, it became a game of observation, prediction, and clever maneuvers. Eli suggested modifications to the city's energy shields, creating temporary corridors that allowed safe passage for citizens while confusing the enemy's machines. He improvised signaling systems using reflective panels to redirect light, creating distractions without causing harm. Every idea, no matter how small, made a difference. The invaders, frustrated by the unexpected obstacles, began to slow down, trying to adapt to the humans' ingenuity. Zilar seized these moments, moving her forces with precision, taking advantage of every hesitation. It was not brute force that was winning the day. It was intelligence, creativity, and collaboration across species. In the midst of the controlled chaos, Eli noticed a group of machines attempting a maneuver that could trap a residential district. Without hesitation, he directed a group of citizens to use lightweight barriers and energy fields to block the path temporarily. Then, he guided the machines into a pre-planned diversion route. The result was smooth and effective. The district remained safe, and the machines were neutralized without damage or harm. Zilar observed him, a sense of admiration growing. "You think differently than anyone I have ever known," she said. "Humans are fragile, yet your mind is powerful in ways my species does not value. Perhaps this is why you survive." Eli smiled modestly. "We have to. Survival isn't just about strength. It's about seeing opportunities and making the most of them. I never thought I'd be doing this on another planet, but here we are." As evening approached, the Queen called a brief pause in the operations. She addressed her army and the crowd, her voice resonant. "Today, we have seen courage not in strength but in thought, not in weapons but in wisdom. Every one of you, human and alien alike, has contributed to our defense, and among you, one human has reminded us all that intelligence and creativity are our greatest weapons." The crowd erupted in applause. Eli felt a warmth in his chest, a mixture of pride and humility. He had never sought recognition, yet the impact of his actions was undeniable. The Queen's trust and acknowledgement meant more than any personal accolade. During the pause, Eli moved through the city, observing areas that had been secured and identifying potential weak points. His mind worked like a puzzle, each piece connected to the next. He suggested minor improvements, adjusting energy barriers, reinforcing temporary corridors, and using reflective surfaces to create visual diversions. Each idea was simple but effective, and each one strengthened the city's defenses without causing injury or destruction. The Queen joined him at the edge of a secure zone. "You have transformed this city's defense in a single day," she said. "And yet, you remain calm, thinking ahead. It is remarkable." Eli laughed softly. "I'm just trying to help. I'm not a soldier, not a warrior. I just look at what's in front of me and figure out what will work. I guess that's all humans are good at, problem solving." Zilar tilted her head. "Problem solving is rare. You have proven that intelligence and courage together can achieve more than armies alone. Perhaps this is why humans are unpredictable, and perhaps unpredictability is a gift we should never underestimate." Night fell completely over Zorathis, and the city glowed with protective lights. The enemy machines had been slowed, diverted, and contained in ways that minimized harm. The Queen's forces, though tired, were inspired. They had witnessed firsthand how a single human mind could influence events in ways no traditional strategy could. Eli, exhausted but alert, stood beside Zilar on a balcony overlooking the city. "Do you think this will last?" he asked quietly. The Queen considered the question. "Wars are never permanent, human. But today, you have reminded us all that hope and ingenuity can change outcomes. That is something worth holding on to, no matter what tomorrow brings." The human smiled faintly, looking out over the city he had helped protect. He had arrived as an observer, expecting to watch history unfold. Instead, he had become part of it. And as he watched the Queen confer with her commanders, he realized that courage, creativity, and collaboration could reshape the very fabric of war itself. In the quiet of the night, while the stars shone above Zorathis, a new feeling spread through the city. It was a sense of unity, of shared purpose, and of hope. For the first time, humans and aliens alike recognized that victory was not merely about strength, but about ingenuity, cooperation, and the unexpected brilliance of one determined human in a crowd. And somewhere deep in his mind, Eli knew this was only the beginning. The challenges ahead would be greater, the enemy smarter, and the stakes higher. Yet he also knew that as long as he could think, guide, and inspire, he could help the Queen, her people, and the city of Zorathis survive against all odds. As the night deepened, lights twinkled across the battlefield, signaling safe zones and secured paths. The human ambassador had become more than an observer. He had become a symbol of hope. And in the hearts of every alien present, a new understanding took root. The smallest, most underestimated among them could shape destinies in ways no army alone ever could. The next morning, Zorathis awoke under a pale, golden sun. The city felt different now, charged with energy and cautious optimism. Citizens moved with purpose, and the Queen's army prepared for the day ahead with renewed determination. Eli, despite his fatigue, was already at work, observing the movements of the enemy's machines from a high vantage point. Though the previous day had been successful, Eli knew that victory was far from assured. The invaders were intelligent and adaptable, learning quickly from their failures. Every success he had guided had taught them something, and today he needed a new approach, something unexpected, something that could truly shift the balance in favor of the defenders. Xylar approached him quietly, her golden eyes watching the human closely. "You have done well," she said, "but the enemy adapts. Your methods yesterday may not work again. What will you do?" Eli thought for a moment, scanning the streets below. "They rely on patterns," he said slowly. "Not strength, not numbers. Patterns. If we can break the patterns, confuse them completely, they won't know where to go, and that will give your forces an advantage." The Queen nodded thoughtfully. "Explain." Eli gestured toward a network of streets lined with energy shields and temporary barriers. "We can create shifting paths, move the barriers so the machines have to constantly adjust, use reflective panels to redirect light signals, guide them like water through channels. They'll get stuck in loops or go where we want without harming anyone." Xylar's eyes brightened with interest. "So we use the environment itself as a tool, a clever tactic for someone without weapons." Eli smiled faintly. "It's not about weapons. It's about thinking." Orders were relayed quickly. Citizens and soldiers alike began to move barricades, shift energy shields, and set up reflective panels in precise locations. The air was filled with anticipation as everyone worked together, following Eli's careful instructions. Soon the first machines arrived, attempting to march through the familiar streets. But the paths had changed. Barriers moved at just the right time, corridors narrowed and widened, and light signals flickered in ways the invaders could not predict. Confusion spread quickly. Machines slowed, hesitated, and altered their course repeatedly, unable to understand the shifting environment. From her vantage point, Xylar watched in awe. The human's idea was working even better than she had imagined. Her army took advantage of the hesitation, guiding the machines safely into containment zones. Every move was precise, every adjustment deliberate, and yet no one was harmed. It was a dance of intelligence and patience, not aggression. Eli observed carefully, calling out instructions as needed. "Shift the panel left. Yes, now adjust the barrier. Perfect." His voice carried over the plaza, clear and confident. The citizens responded quickly, moving as one, creating a flowing system that the invaders could not predict. As the day wore on, Eli noticed a new pattern. A group of machines seemed to recognize the repeated tactics and began testing alternate routes. They were not defeated, they were learning. If the defenders continued with the same methods, the machines could adapt and regain control. "We need something different," Eli said to the Queen. "Something they won't expect at all." Zelar raised an eyebrow. "And what do you propose?" Eli pointed to the rooftops of the buildings lining the streets. "We can use height, create new paths from above, redirect the machines with lightweight panels suspended overhead. Let gravity and movement do the work. It will confuse them completely because they only expect ground-level obstacles." The Queen considered this, then nodded. "It is risky, but the potential is great. Proceed, human." With Eli's guidance, teams quickly began installing overhead panels connected to lightweight tethers. Some were movable, some fixed, but all designed to alter the machine's paths subtly. It was delicate work, requiring precision and coordination, yet the citizens embraced it enthusiastically. For the first time, many felt like active participants, not just bystanders. When the machines approached the next street, the new system went into effect. Overhead panels shifted, corridors narrowed, and light reflected in unexpected directions. The invaders paused, reoriented, and attempted to adjust. Every movement they made seemed to lead them into more confusion. It was as if the city itself had become alive, guiding the machines along a path designed by human ingenuity. Zelar smiled, a rare moment of pure satisfaction. "Your mind is extraordinary," she said. "You see solutions where others see only obstacles." Eli nodded, though he kept his focus on the streets below. "We have to stay ahead. If they learn this too quickly, the advantage is gone. We need constant change." Hours passed as the human continued to direct the city's defenses. The invaders grew more hesitant, their movements slower and less coordinated. The Queen's army moved in tandem, guiding machines without force, redirecting them with precision, and ensuring that every citizen remained safe. What had begun as a desperate situation now seemed manageable, thanks to one human's insight and the willingness of a city to adapt. By midday, the Queen called a brief pause to assess the situation. Eli was invited to the command platform, where he could review the streets and plan the next stage. Zelar leaned beside him. "You have done more than guide defenses," she said softly. "You have inspired my people. Even my soldiers who have fought for centuries now look to you for insight. That is a rare gift." Eli felt a warm glow of pride, but shook his head. "I'm just thinking. They are the ones making it work. I'm just showing the way." The Queen regarded him seriously. "Showing the way is no small thing. Today, you are not just an observer, you are a leader in your own way." Eli looked down at the city below. The streets were alive with movement, not of conflict, but of coordination. Barricades shifted, shields flickered, and citizens guided machines into harmless channels. The Queen's soldiers moved with confidence, their respect for the human evident in their precise execution of his plans. Suddenly, Eli noticed a group of machines attempting an unexpected maneuver, a wide arc that could bypass the barricades entirely. He quickly recalculated, pointing to a set of rooftops and nearby towers. "We can use momentum against them," he called out. "Shift the panels here and here, redirect their movement into the side corridor. They won't anticipate it." The citizens followed his instructions carefully. Overhead panels moved, corridors shifted, and machines that had thought they had found a way past were redirected seamlessly. For a moment, the city seemed like a living puzzle, every piece moving in harmony. The invaders had no idea how to respond. Zelar's admiration grew. "You are teaching my people to think differently," she said. "To adapt, to innovate, to see possibilities beyond strength alone. Perhaps this is the true power of humans, flexibility and creativity in the face of challenge. Eli smiled, though he remained focused. We all have to think together. It's not just me, the citizens, the soldiers. You all make it work. I just help guide the flow. As afternoon turned to evening, Eli noticed the invaders' hesitation had grown significantly. They moved slower, tested fewer paths, and seemed unable to anticipate the defenders' evolving strategies. The Queen's forces used this pause to strengthen barriers, adjust energy fields, and create additional safe corridors for citizens. The Queen stood beside Eli on the balcony, her eyes scanning the city. "You have done more than guide the battle today," she said. "You have changed how my people see challenges. We no longer rely solely on power. We rely on thought, collaboration, and adaptability. That is a lesson we will carry beyond this war." Eli felt a mixture of exhaustion and fulfillment. He had come to Zorathis as a visitor, a mere observer of alien culture. Yet here he was, shaping outcomes in ways he never imagined. His small human perspective, combined with creativity and careful observation, had helped shift the tide without violence. Night fell over Zorathis, and the city glowed softly under protective lights. The streets were quiet, yet the energy of accomplishment lingered in the air. Citizens moved cautiously, knowing the battle was not over, but confident in their ability to respond, guided by the human's insight. The Queen looked down at Eli, her expression thoughtful. "You have shown us that courage is not always in strength, and that wisdom can change the course of events more than force ever could. Perhaps humans are underestimated not because of weakness, but because of this very strength, the strength of thought." Eli nodded, a small smile crossing his face. "We see what others overlook. We try new solutions, even when it's hard. That's all I've done. Watch, think, and guide. The rest is everyone else's effort." Zelar studied him for a moment longer, then nodded. "Tomorrow the challenge will grow. The enemy will learn, adapt, and test us in ways we cannot predict. But with your guidance, I have confidence we can face them. Together." Eli looked out over the city, the soft glow of lights reflecting in his eyes. He understood the weight of the coming day, but he also felt hope. The invaders were strong, but intelligence, creativity, and collaboration had already proven their power. The human in the crowd had risen, and now he was ready to face whatever came next. In that moment, both human and alien understood something vital. Battles were not always won by force, but by ingenuity, courage, and the willingness to see possibilities no one else imagined. And as long as they embraced that, no challenge, no matter how daunting, was insurmountable. The night settled over Zorathis with a calm sense of readiness. The city, alive with careful movement and quiet determination, waited for the next day. The Queen and the human stood side by side, partners in strategy, united by a vision of survival, hope, and the brilliance that could emerge from the smallest, most underestimated among them. And deep in his mind, Eli felt the quiet thrill of purpose. The coming day would test him and the Queen in ways yet unknown, but he was ready. He had learned that even the smallest voice could shape the future. Even a human could rise in a crowd and change the fate of a world. The morning sun rose over Zorathis, bathing the city in a gentle golden light. The streets were quiet, but alert, filled with citizens and soldiers alike preparing for the day's events. Though the previous days had gone well, Eli knew that the battle was far from over. The invaders had slowed, but they had not surrendered, and the Queen's forces remained on edge. Today would be the true test of their combined ingenuity. Eli stood beside Zelar on the balcony of the citadel, overlooking the intricate network of streets, barricades, and energy fields. "We've slowed them down, redirected them, and kept everyone safe," he said quietly. "But they'll try something new today. We need to be ready to adapt again." The Queen nodded. "Yes, and we will. Your mind has guided us to victory in ways my army alone could not. Today we build on that." Eli smiled faintly, though he felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He had come to Zarathis as an observer, expecting to learn. Instead, he had become a strategist, guiding the city's defense with nothing but observation, creativity, and quick thinking. And now it was time for the final phase, the moment when all their preparation would be tested. The first wave of the day approached. This time, the invaders moved more cautiously, their machines scanning every barrier and corridor. It was clear they had learned from previous encounters, and Eli realized that static strategies would no longer be effective. The city itself had to move, shift, and think like a living organism. Eli directed the citizens to adjust the barricades and shields in real time, creating dynamic paths that constantly changed as the machines advanced. He used reflective panels and overhead structures to confuse the invaders' sensors, while redirecting them safely toward containment zones. Every instruction had to be precise, yet flexible. Zelar's army moved in perfect synchronization with the humans' guidance. Soldiers redirected machines, assisted citizens, and maintained energy fields, all coordinated by Eli's sharp mind. The invaders slowed, hesitated, and sometimes reversed direction entirely, unable to predict the constantly shifting environment. From her vantage point, Zylar observed the process with awe. She had led countless battles, faced overwhelming odds, and yet never had she seen strategy executed with such clarity and ingenuity. The human beside her, small and unarmed, had become the linchpin of their defense. Hours passed, and the city moved as one. Citizens, soldiers, and Eli formed a coordinated system that made the invaders' movements nearly impossible. Machines that had once advanced confidently now faltered, their designs ill-suited for the unexpected creativity of humans and the adaptability of the Queen's forces. At midday, Eli noticed a potential breakthrough attempt by a small group of machines aiming for a residential district. Without hesitation, he signaled a series of adjustments. Barricades shifted, energy shields pulsed, and overhead panels moved just in time to guide the machines safely into a diversion path. The citizens executed the plan flawlessly, following his instructions with precision. Zelar watched, her respect for the human deepening. "You are teaching us to think differently, to trust intuition and adaptability. Your presence has reshaped how we approach challenges, human. That is a rare gift indeed." Eli shook his head. "I'm just helping everyone see possibilities they might not notice. The real credit goes to all of you. I just show the way." As afternoon approached, Eli faced the most complex challenge yet. A large formation of machines was approaching, more organized and coordinated than anything they had seen before. Their paths intersected multiple streets, and if mismanaged, they could overwhelm the city's defenses. Eli studied the pattern carefully, thinking through every possibility. "Queen," he said, "we can't redirect them with the usual methods, but if we use height, momentum, and timing together, we can create a controlled path. They will move exactly where we want without any harm to citizens or property." Zelar nodded, trusting his judgment completely. "Then we follow your plan, human." "Lead us." Eli quickly coordinated the operation. Citizens adjusted panels, energy shields were timed to pulse in sequence, and lightweight barriers moved into precise positions. He directed soldiers to subtly influence the machine's paths with gentle nudges and strategic openings. It was a complex dance, requiring perfect timing and cooperation across species. The machines entered the trap. At first, they hesitated, then moved as planned, guided by the shifting environment. Overhead panels directed their movement, Energy shields created gentle barriers, and the streets themselves seemed alive, flowing with intent. The invaders could not comprehend the coordination. They had never faced an opponent that combined intelligence, creativity, and precision in such a way. From her command platform, Xylar observed the results. The machines followed Eli's guidance flawlessly, moving through the city without causing harm or panic. Citizens cheered quietly from safe positions, proud of their role in executing the plan. Soldiers smiled, astonished at how a human mind had orchestrated what seemed impossible. As the final machine moved into its containment zone, the city erupted in quiet celebration. Eli allowed himself a moment to breathe, feeling relief and satisfaction. The queen approached him, her expression warm and approving. "You have not only guided the defense, human," she said, "but you have inspired us all. Your creativity, courage, and determination have reshaped how we see ourselves and our capabilities. Today, we have witnessed the power of collaboration, intelligence, and ingenuity." Eli looked out over the city, the streets now calm and orderly. "I never expected to do this," he admitted softly. "I just looked, thought, and guided. The real strength was everyone working together. Humans, aliens. When we cooperate, there's nothing we can't solve." The queen studied him, her golden eyes reflecting pride and admiration. "Indeed. Perhaps this is why humans are so often underestimated. Your strength is not in your body, but in your mind, and your mind has saved this city." As evening fell, Eli walked through the streets alongside Xylar, observing the people he had helped guide. Children played safely in protected areas, citizens repaired barricades and energy shields, and soldiers shared stories of the day's clever maneuvers. The atmosphere was one of triumph, not over an enemy, but over fear, uncertainty, and limitation. Eli realized that this was the essence of humanity, adaptable, inventive, and courageous in ways that were not always obvious. A single human in a crowd could influence outcomes far greater than size or strength might suggest. And in that realization, he felt a deep connection to the queen, to her people, and to the spirit of collaboration they had all embraced. The queen paused on a balcony, looking down at the city she had fought to protect. "Today has proven something important, human. That intelligence, creativity, and courage, qualities often dismissed as ordinary, can accomplish extraordinary things, and that lesson will endure far beyond this battle." Eli nodded, feeling the weight and joy of that truth. "It's not just me," he said. "It's all of us working together. Every small decision, every observation, it adds up. That's how we overcome challenges. That's how we survive, and even thrive." As night settled over Zorathis, the city glowed with soft lights. Barricades, energy shields, and reflective panels stood ready, but now they were symbols of achievement rather than fear. Citizens moved through the streets with calm confidence, proud of their contributions and inspired by the human who had guided them. The queen and Eli stood together, overlooking the city and the contained invaders. A quiet sense of victory filled the air, not victory through destruction, but victory through ingenuity, patience, and collaboration. The city was safe, its people unharmed, and its defenders stronger for the lessons learned. "You have risen from a mere observer to a hero, human," Xylar said. "Your presence has shown us that even the smallest, most underestimated beings can achieve greatness. Today you have changed not just the outcome of this battle, but the way we think about strength and possibility." Eli smiled, humbled by her words. "I didn't do it alone. Humans are small, yes, but we think, observe, and adapt. That's our strength. And I couldn't have done it without everyone else, the citizens, your soldiers, and you. We all made it work together." The queen nodded, a rare and warm expression on her face. "Then let this day be remembered. not for battles won through force, but for the triumph of intelligence, courage, and cooperation. And let it be remembered that one human, standing among many, can rise and change the fate of a world. Eli felt a quiet pride as he looked over Zorathis. The city, once threatened, now thrived under their guidance, and in that moment, he understood something deeply human. Even in the face of great odds, creativity, courage, and collaboration could overcome the impossible. The stars began to shine above Zorathis, reflecting in the calm streets below. The human ambassador had become more than a visitor. He had become a symbol of hope, ingenuity, and the enduring power of human thought. As Eli stood beside Xylar, he realized that this was more than a victory. It was a beginning of understanding between species, of respect for the human mind, and of the knowledge that even the smallest among them could rise and make a difference. The city was quiet now, but alive with the promise of tomorrow. Citizens returned to their homes, soldiers tended to their equipment, and the queen watched over them all, her heart filled with pride and gratitude. And in the crowd, Eli felt a quiet joy. He had risen, he had guided, and together they had achieved something extraordinary without ever striking a blow. As the night deepened, the queen placed a hand on Eli's shoulder. "You have taught us something we will never forget, human. Courage, intelligence, and creativity. These are the true strengths of any being, and today you proved it." Eli nodded, looking out at the peaceful city. "We all proved it. And as long as we continue to work together, there's nothing we can't accomplish." Above, the stars shone brightly over Zorathis, and for the first time in many cycles, the city slept with complete peace. A human in the crowd had risen, and in doing so, he had changed the course of history. And somewhere in the quiet of the night, Eli felt a deep truth settle within him. Greatness is not measured by strength alone, but by thought, courage, and the willingness to rise when it matters most.